Hey everybody, how's it? Aloha. Okay, I cannot believe that in 7 months in this channel I have not covered any Pantera. Now Pantera for me, without a doubt, fit a window in my life from like 17 to 20 years old, so that would be like from the late 70s into the early 80s, even though they came out I think in early 80. Was really influential because of the riffiness that they had and the heaviness that they had at that time. So I was automatically drawn to it, and that was probably the smallest window in the history of my life that I actually listened to a little radio and stuff, because after all the years that I did the music from being itty bit to 18 years old, when I got out of the house I was like, yay, party, surfing, chicks, all right. And I didn't get back in the music industry till I was about 20 years old or something like that. So anyhow, big influence on me. This song right here I'm doing is Cowboys from Hell. So I do remember the title. I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to recognize the song. However, with this set of ears as being your old Decomposer here on the Decomposer Lounge, listening to it with different ears, I'll be able to really pull out some super crazy layers like I do. Anyhow, as you guys know, channel's not monetized when I do these videos. Any money or any ads that come up makes money for the band, the record company, and all that sort of stuff. If you want to support the channel, you want to buy me a cup of coffee, super cool beans. Also, I'll have their Spotify and their merch, and the link for the headsets and stuff will all be down below. So, all right, let's do this. Cowboys from Hell, Pantera. All right. Okay, multiple riffs happening here. Let me just talk briefly about the opening. I love the single guitar with a little bit of that flange that's happening. A flanging sound is a little bit of that swimming sound that you may hear. Remember, these breakdowns are for the pure listener. It's not theoretical and stuff. So when I peel back the layers, I like to kind of explain a little bit about, you know, the effects if I bring those up. So the flange is a little bit of that swimminess that you hear in the sound. Actually, Eddie Van Halen used the flange quite a bit, and he was very well known for that in his sound. That gave it that kind of cool, swimmy sound. The second guitar, when it comes in, automatically the riff he's playing, because the first guitar is just setting the pace of the riff, and now the second guitar obviously is the second arrangement. And I love there's a really southern rock influence in that phrasing in his riff that he's playing. Then they light it up and they go really hard left and right with another pattern. At least that's what I recall. And so as the drums come in, they have that really nice, you know, it's that sound where it just really, for me, when I listen to it, I go, ah, gosh, I miss the 80s. I mean, the real metal of the 80s. Now, you guys help me with Pantera, please. I know that they began in 80 or 81 or 82, somewhere like that, and they disbanded, I think, in the early 2000s. But it felt to me, and I think that they were a very important part of the trajectory of change with the style that they had already established as a band in the 80s, and as they grew, you know, with each album that released, that I that they were responsible, I think, for, I read it somewhere, what's it called? Not new metal, groove metal. That the trajectory they were on, they were at the basis that they were on, they were at the basis of groove metal, which I think blew up into what a lot of this channel is an influence, because they're very riff oriented. I love the part in the vocals where I think it's the bridge, the pre-chorus, where there is the affected vocals, the hard left, hard right split, and then the power as the hook comes in. And then, of course, something else that I think is really fundamentally perfect about what I'm hearing. On this channel, we hear a lot of very progressive new metal, kind of very creative writing, where the drums are extremely arranged, all kinds of stuff, you know, and everything. I love the fact that in the drumming, he squares off straight on a 4/4 through the verse. So the riff, it gives a lot more life to the riff when the drums are but the riff is going on. I believe Tommy Lee did that also for Dr. Feelgood. And that just gives even more life to the riff. And that's what I'm just pumped about when I hear that. I was going, yeah, just level that stuff straight at me. Just hit me in the head with a straight 4/4, and then let the guitars and the arrangements and the bass live like that. So let's move on.
Better not take it out on me, 'cause your sound is found where your city used to be. So out of the darkness and into the light, sparks fly everywhere inside from our double barrel 12 gauge. Can't lock me in your cage. You see us coming and you all together run cover. We're taking over this town. Here it comes, reach for your gun and you better listen well, my friend. You see it's best down below.
Okay, I know. Don't smoke me in the comments. I know that I stopped before a change coming up. Just want to mention really quick, what I miss about what I'm hearing now is that it sounds like to me, and you guitar players can help me out with this, that this is just straight out of the head, everything turned on 11, kind of the tube sizzle amp sound. I kind of miss that. Nowadays we're getting so, with technology is pushing so forward, and whether you're using plugins or amp mods and stuff, there's great plugins now nonetheless, or there's all kinds of heads and cabinets and speakers out there. I just miss that raw organic sizzle of just blasting, you know, through the tubes in a head. And that's what this sounds like to me, and it for me too, in my theater of mind, I mean, soundtrack of life, this sound, let alone, you know, Pantera as a band, has, you know, a permanent place in my soundtrack of life. So when I hear this, I automatically think of myself when I had my pseudo long-haired mullet kind of surfer, you know, get baked, sitting on the beach going, fire, fire. So I don't know, it's just, guitar players help me out with that. Doesn't that sound like a completely just powered through the head, no messing around with any post-signal or pre-signal stuff, you know, any stomps or anything? I don't know, it just sounds raw and organic. Okay, here we go.
Let me out with the Cowboys from hell.
Sorry guys, I got to rinse on that section. You see, this is the hidden jewels in a lot of bands that I've noticed as I've been going through this process on this channel, is that the depth of the musicianship and capabilities of composition and arrangement is there's always so much more to these musicians than we may think on just the front end. You know, we're the listeners, we're the pure listeners. Well, you are. Me, I'm afflicted. But, you know, when I was just listening to how the solo was played, and then this turnaround was very, very, very freaking musical, extremely musical and stuff. I mean, not only were they just playing it unreal, and I love the bass sound in this track, and the performance, of course. They were pushing, to me, it's like it's pushing the envelope of creativity of like saying, hey, you know, we got this too in there. We're going to sprinkle a little of this in here, but we're going to come back into the meat and potatoes of our track. When they sprinkle in those arrangements right there, and they're still kind of powering and pounding right through it all, that's almost like you ain't seen nothing yet, and you have no idea what's coming around the corner. And that's what I love about bands such as Pantera that are capable of staying together long enough. It's an incredible journey to hear album one and then the very last thing that they did on the trajectory on how they've grown, pushed the levels or the limits of a genre, and even perhaps even develop or start or be at the base of another genre, which is what I believe I had said earlier about them being at the base of baseline, or the beginning of the groove metal thing. So, all right, let me go back into this and then I'll finish it up. And another thing too that I love about the arrangement is the fact, especially in the drums, I want to kind of glam on the drums for a second, is by, in certain sections of the songs, squaring off and just carrying that straight 4/4, and then exploding in these phrases where he was just fully shining with you know, a lot of his dynamics and, you know, super fast playing, you know what I mean? For me, part of great songwriting, such as this track, is to be able to take the listener through those multiple stages of the journey, by not always being pedal to the metal with every bit of your musicianship from start to bottom. You know, one of my favorite guitar players that's been a huge influence on me and my guitar playing is Robin Ford. Blues, fusion, jazz guitarist. Look him up if you don't know who he is. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned from him in the mid-90s was the capabilities of musicians, in this case a guitar player, right, to go, you know, be all over the freaking place, is an incredible thing, and it's a personal mission of that musician to get to that place. However, the whole blowing your wad kind of, kind of thing comes from the fact that if you're starting that way, or if there's too much of that, where else can you take not only your skill set, but then your ability to write music to not overwhelm, you know, an audience, you know, the pure listener. And so, you know, Robin said, you know, he saves a lot of his fun stuff for maybe the last minute and a half of it, because the rest of it is the soul and the feel and the power of music through and through. And that's what happened here. The soul, the power, great fun songwriting, super straight but sick riff playing, no time change, signature change or anything like that. And then they gave us time to settle in just to that groove, just because, you know, just get into it. But then on the turnaround phrases, the end of, like, you know, whether it was the pre-chorus or whether it was the bridge or the solo section and stuff like that, they punch up that level of musicianship and composition and stuff, and they all had a killer. That's what I'm looking for. God, the older I get, the better I was. It's like, they get to shine. The musicians get to pound it out there, even the vocalist, So, anyhow, that's my yada yada blah 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 for today. So yes, finally, I did cover Pantera. Thank you guys for the support. If you so see fit, buy me a cup of coffee. All right. It also helps what I do with the kids. If you guys are interested in why I got puppets and stuff back here, the links are down below, and you can see what I do for kids. I hear these guys are. I remember they're from Texas. And I've been to Texas once. I went to South Padre Island a couple years ago. Loved it. And I was supposed to hit a bunch of children's hospitals last year with my visits that I do with my healing dinosaurs all through Texas, but coronavirus shut me down. So I'm hoping to do it in 2022. Anyhow, that's my phone. I'm going to go answer the phone. You guys take care. Aloha. All right.